It's always nice to sit down and go back through a vintage. These have been in bottle, the 21's about a year. And reflecting back, Chris, when you think of 21, what's the first thing that comes to mind about that growing season?
The first thing that comes to my mind is the volume of fruit that we had on the vine and the after effect of the 20 vintage on the 21 vintage and how it created a growing season that was really unique in the cluster morphology, the cluster architecture, and then ultimately the volume of fruit that we got.
Yeah, I remember the small quantities that we had coming in that year. And for me, it's impossible to think about 21 without thinking about 20 and everything we went through. And I remember that feeling in 21 with the grapes coming in and feeling so thankful that we had this beautiful fruit to work with that year.
Actually, when the fruit got into the fermenters and started creating those wines, it was like, wow, it's pretty damn good. This vineyard in the area that we have this Cab Franc growing, I think it's one of the best examples of mountain viticulture with Cab Franc. It's got that brightness. There's a little bit of that dried cherry character to it, a little bit of that rhubarb. This Cab Franc has consistently been 100% for all of its tenure here.
Yeah, and so this was 22 months and 70% new oak, which is typical. What we found works really well with this vineyard over the years.
Yeah. Cab Franc there's enough of a delicate character with Cab Franc that if you over oak it, you can lose a little bit of that floral note. And I don't want to do that with this wine. Our Cabernet this year, 93% Cabernet, then a sprinkling of the other varieties. This wine is always meant to be a reflection of this incredible vineyard that we sit in. And that block right behind us is one of the foundational blocks for Mount Brave, and that has a really soft expression of Cabernet, which works really well for that goal.
This wine has that classic Mount Veeder Cabernet structure that I think of. It's chewy, almost like a taffy or something like that. And it really comes across beautifully in this one. 21 Cab got 99 points and our best score ever on this wine. What do you think of when those scores come in?
I'm just, thrilled for the recognition that my team gets on these kind of scores, and that the hard work that we do pays off, and that people recognize that.
Since we first bottled this 21 Merlot has stood out to me with so much energy and vibrancy.
You know my feelings about Merlot and where it ought to be in the status of Bordeaux varieties in the U.S. I think it should be right up there with Cabernet, and Mount Veeder is one of these places that it does exceptionally well at. And this one has this great, as you mentioned, energy. It's got that blueberry. It's got a really nice roundness to it too that kind of fills your mouth without being flabby.
Yeah, this for me also is a wine that is really just calling to be paired with food.
Yeah,
just a great dinner wine.
I believe that the mountain terroir in Napa is ideal growing conditions for Merlot. Get this intensity and this depth, and as we mentioned again, this energy that you don't get on the valley floor. And I think that's why Merlot shines so well. What do you think of the Malbec?
It's fun to taste in this lineup because you have the Cab Franc, the Cab Sauv, the Merlot, and then it's like, whoa, this is a totally different animal. The nose is just super expressive, tons of black fruit. And I love this block. I call it the thigh workout during harvest because it's probably our highest and steepest block, The
Malbec here is, again, expressive of this terroir, but also very expressive of the variety. That rhubarby character, which is the spice that I always get in Malbec, shows itself in just the right amount of expression in this wine without being overtly taking over all that black fruit that comes on the backside. It doesn't have the tannins, so it's a little bit more approachable typically, but it's got the mountain acid. So it's got that bright lift at the end. Incredibly proud of this wine because there's not a lot of people making Malbec in our neck of the woods, and I think this vineyard really is a great example of how Malbec can make a statement for Napa Valley. We have a little block of Zin and a little block of Syrah. I want a Zin that has some weight and that has, a good amount of chewiness to it. So with the Syrah filling in the middle body and the Cabernet kind of extending that finish, the Zin kind of carries a lot of the aromatic in this wine.
The Zin and the Syrah, both of those wines, we age for less time than the other varieties. How would you describe to someone the reasoning behind that?
Again, with oak, you have to be aware of how different varieties morph when they're combined with the characters from the barrel.
Yeah, it's, besides energy, we talk about looking for balance in our wines a lot. And I think about the oak aging as finding that balance point where you have brought out the expressiveness of the grape, but you still have all the fruit and the energy that you want to keep in there. And it's sort of like picking that moment in time to preserve that. Chris, what are your 3 words to describe the Zin?
The best ever.